1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the northeast corner of soon-to-be sunny South Africa. You find yourselves in the Kruger National Park on a very live dawn safari. The dawn, as you can see, has just broken. I am reclining comfortably on this log, waiting for the sun to come up behind me. My name is James Henry. On camera today is Bryan. Good morning, Bryan.
Good morning, James.
Yes, Bryan is some distance from me, as you can see. And in the final control, we've got Kirsten McLennan-Smith on the vocals and Rebecca playing the keys. On the other vehicle, Brent Smith, who is tracking a male lion to the west of where we sit right now, and he is being filmed by the diminutive Paul Kruger, a.k.a. Wium Durenbrak. Okay, I'm now going to remove myself from this log because there are bits of it spiking into the soft parts of my flesh. If you would like to talk to us during the course of this morning, and we encourage you to do so, please, hashtag SafariLIVE if you wish to tweet, like some of the Dawn Chorus, which is calling around us right now. Otherwise, you can talk to us on the email, questions at wildearth.tv, and if you wish are watching on YouTube, which seems to be the most stable stream at the moment, use the YouTube chat stream. YouTube chat stream. And that's how you can talk to us. Ask us questions, give us comments, tell us what you think of Africa, and tell us what you want to see this morning. But first of all, just look at the pinkening dawn sky as it comes up. The sun is about to peep up over the horizon, and of course this is not an experience that we get most of the time, largely because we're either asleep or trying to track something. It's just very lovely, so I think we're going to sit here for a little bit longer. And while I talk quietly to you, just listen to the birds. You can probably hear a few of the doves, the sparrows, there's a woodpecker, there's a crested barbet going. All in the background, the crested francolins going. Tit-tit, tit-tit, tit-tit. The sparrows, the birds you can hear going. Choop, 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 choop. They're often the first birds to call. And what I can tell you is that there is a drag mark next to where I'm sitting, which I didn't notice when I got out of the car, made by a hyena dragging some form of hapless prey, possibly back to the den. So I think what we're going to do is follow that for the next little while, simply because we don't know where the den is at the moment. I did check for it on foot yesterday, but didn't manage to find the hyena den. Isn't that just stunning? We'll just wait for the sun to peep up over the horizon. Like I say, for those of you who are new to this game, you're on a live safari, and that means, you know, anything can happen. We don't, well, we try and plan. We have a vague plan when we go out in the morning, but of course, this being the African bushveld, you just never can tell what is going to happen. And so, let's see. My plan was to go to the south of the reserve this morning and see if we couldn't maybe find some evidence of Karula and her cubs, but now that I've found these hyena drag marks, I think we're probably going to have a look and see if we can't find that. But I cannot bring myself, I'm afraid, to start the engine before that sun has popped up over the horizon. It's too beautiful for words. Here it comes. Here it comes. And the building dove chorus seems to be building as the light builds, as that golden horizon's turned. Well, it's now turning gold. It was, of course, very pink. It's going orange, and now it's going gold. And shortly, a little molten light will emerge from between those two trees. Gentle wind blowing. It was a very hot night last night. Unusual, because we're supposed to be, of course, going into the autumn. Come on, sun. Is it coming, Bryan?
I think so.
And Bryan, on Twitter, you say this is one of the best morning views ever. I have to agree with you. We stop in this particular area quite often, simply because you do get this incredible view out to the east. Come on, sun. We'll hand you over to Brent Smith as soon as the molten orb of the sun breaks the horizon. Here it comes. Almost expects it to explode up. It isn't up behind the clouds yet, is it, Bryan? No.
No.
You can hear a bit of a breeze. There was apparently some kind of rain warning for today. Of course, the old adage goes, red in the morning, shepherd's warning. I don't know about there going to be any rain. It is a sort of warmish 75 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment, which I think is around 21 degrees Celsius. So it's certainly not cold by any stretch of the imagination. The sun is taking slightly longer than I thought it was going to.
Oh, here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. There it is, everyone. Hooray. Good morning, Mr. Sun. All right, on that note, let us hand you over to Brent Smith, who is frantically tracking some lions, and we'll get onto the tracks of these hyenas.
Good morning and welcome to this spectacular sunrise safari. I do apologize if my head is hanging over the door, but I am in search of some of Africa's big cats. So we had male lion tracks earlier. Unfortunately, they went all the way south out of our Traverse area. But my friend from the west told me the Nkuhumas crossed somewhere here last night. I'm just trying to find the tracks. There have been a lot of elephants around, so it is making the tracking slightly more challenging, but welcome on the back, and let's see if we can track some cats together. And I nearly forgot to mention, we have the multi-talented cameraman, Wium, who's assisting me in my tracking and spotting and general all-round vehicle stuff. And a morale booster, that is correct. Wium is definitely a morale booster. So they were on the Sibambili cut line last night, which is just up ahead. So fingers crossed they didn't just do a little sneak through Djuma and pop into the northern sectors of Buffalo's Hook. I can see, here we go, here are the Nkuhuma ladies' tracks. Heading due east at the moment. So hopefully, see, they ignored the no entry sign, bad ladies. So we're gonna just have to do the same. Yes. So the one unfortunate thing about whenever we do find lion or leopard tracks in this area, it is a very small little corner, a top little sliver of Djuma. And they have been known to sometimes just sneak across to our northern neighbor. But there has been quite a lot of pandemonium in between the Salati males and the Birmingham males. So maybe they've decided to stay slightly further to the west, keep their nose out of that fight. So, guys, I had a track here. They might have snuck down one of the game pass there. We've still got one of the ladies here. There we go, she's turning, and that is definitely not a lion. That is a very cute, fluffy baby waterbuck. Now, where's your mum? Now, it is not uncommon for adults to leave these guys by themselves, but normally they're lying down in a bit of a thicket. Now, is this the result of lion pandemonium overnight? That waterbuck have been split and chased about. I'm searching for an adult. I haven't seen one yet. But that little baby does look quite relaxed. Cheryl and Lucy are hoping for wild dogs this morning. Cheryl and Lucy, I hope for wild dogs every morning, every evening, middle of the day, middle of the night. They are by far my most favorite of creatures. Now, looking at this behavior, it is quite jumpy. So it could possibly be the result of the lions chasing things around Sydney's waterhole last night and splitting up the different individuals. The flies are out nice and early this morning. So what we're hoping, if they have snuck across our northern boundary here, is that they've gone and looped back somewhere further down, which is what they do. They do that quite often. This section to the north now seems to be taken over by the Talamati pride. Having quite a few elephants through here as well, which always makes the tracking slightly more difficult. Yeah, well, that's good news. No tracks heading due north just yet. Maybe they did a sneaky puff adder maneuver. You've got them heading east. That's very good news. Now they just must continue east and maybe cut south. So we're going to keep with them. As I said, the Ellies have come through here quite a bit during the night. Let's just go stay with us for a little bit longer. We're going to try to see if we can see anything in that open area towards Sydney's waterhole. Anything going that side, Wium? Okay. Let's just go up ahead and have a quick look. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back and have a check. Let's just quickly peruse the large open plain that is next to. Apologize for the little bit of jumpy signal we experienced there, but we are live in the African bush. So all that can be seen is that lone. There's a lion stalking the waterbuck. There's a lion stalking that baby waterbuck by the looks of things. I can't see, it's a bit far. There we go. I think James Richard was requesting a lion hunt on this exact place. So, James, this is for you. Now, I can't really see. That lion's dipped into that little hollow. And as I said, that baby waterbuck being by itself and wandering around is almost certainly from the lion activity in this area last night. Now, Wium, and that brief view we had of that lion, did it look like a male to you? It did look like a male to me as well. So Guys, this is really exciting. I know this could be quite difficult. If you are a little bit squeamish, especially when it comes to babies, you might want to take a little break from the drive, and I think there's a very strong chance of success. A single baby waterbuck alone. Oh, you can just see that lion moving.
It looks like a young male.
Looks like a young male. I wonder which male lion this could be. So I'm just getting my camera settings correct. Oh, baby waterbuck. That was not a good decision. Now, that waterbuck might look for safety in the water. When they are adults and being chased by predators, they often do that. Monkeys have spotted the lion. Look, there it goes. Maybe that baby's gonna get away. Don't go over the damn wall. No, come back. We're not gonna be able to see what goes on. No. Oh, we can just sit and listen now. But what's going on? There's one place we might get a view, and I do apologize. We're going to have to go through not the prettiest area, but around the gate. We might be able to see down the boundary towards the Manuleti. Yeah, all the monkeys going crazy. It could be one of the Birminghams. They do. Some of them don't have the biggest mage, but from this, it's very, very difficult for us to. Hopefully, we might get another chance at a visual. Oh, he's back. And good for you, little waterbuck. You escaped, so that looks a bit bigger than he did when he was stalking. It does look like possibly one of the Birmingham boys to me.
Guess what? Cat streak's on.
The cat streak's back on. Well done, Wium. Well, just a day's break, so off we go to try set another record. Oh, look at that beautiful morning light on that big male lion who got outsmarted by a baby waterbuck. Now, in certain cases, I've actually seen babies that have been disturbed during the night, whatnot, walk up to an animal like a lion, thinking it could be a little bit of safety. Unfortunately, it looks like he's heading back towards us. You can hear the monkey's alarm calling. So they are what first notified that little baby that there was a predator in its midst. There he pops out now. Now, he could be tracking the Nkahuma pride. Oh, have a little drink. You hear the monkeys, lion, lion, lion. lion! Lion! Hopefully he does keep walking towards us. Now, the reason he could be tracking the Nkahumas is he might have smelt a female that smells like she's an estrus. Looks like that. Oh. Something gave him a little fright there. He turned back to have a look. Well, at least we know the outcome of the chase. Now, lions only have about a 12% success rate. So only 1.2 times out of 10 that they chase something, they actually catch it. I thought he had a better than average chance with a young waterbuck like that. But he probably needed to catch it before it got right out into the open there. When it was on the edge of the thickets, he had a little bit more cover. So I did mention a little bit earlier that James Richard requested just yesterday for a lion hunt at Sydney's dam, and he just says he can't believe he got his lion hunt wish. Well, there we go. Ask and you shall receive. Not always, of course. I ask for wild dogs every morning, but I don't always receive.
And I asked for lions.
And Wium asked for lions, so he's very happy. So we're just going to go pop ourselves over on the other side where we might get a bit of visual as he walks, hopefully, to the south and towards us. So we've just seen that baby waterbuck all alone out in the wild, and Paul Rizzo is wondering, will that baby then probably not. But probably you'll find during the day that that big herd of waterbuck that
I don't know if you can see what we're looking at there, everybody, but just watch carefully and you'll see in the middle a grey shape, and on the right-hand side of the thing in the middle, or your left-hand side, his right, you can see him moving there, you can see a little tusk and then a snout, and there is a warthog sitting in a hole on his termite mound, thinking that we cannot see him, but we can. Can we not, Bryan?
We can indeed.
We can indeed see the warthog. There he is. And normally, of course, they run away as soon as they know they've been spotted in their burrows. He's obviously just popped out to sniff the morning, go and eat some of this lovely green grass. Now, just to keep you updated, let's just watch this warthog for a while. But we have been following the drag mark of those hyenas now for the last, well, what was it, 20 minutes or so while you've been with Brent, watching that very exciting lion interaction there with the hapless waterbuck. Well, not so hapless, got away, didn't it? Anyway, the drag mark, we're sitting on Gallagher shortcut here. We went to the old Gallagher shortcut den. The drag marks didn't go there. They headed off back towards Aubrey's Road, so we're going to go around the block there and see what's happening on that front. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it looks to me like it could well still be on this property. There we go. Realised that we'd been here for too long not to have spotted him. All right. So the line is still with Brent. He's back with the picture. We're going to carry on round, see if we can find the hyena den. We'll see you just now.
So, Lady Luck is on our side this morning. He seems to be coming the right way. There you go. I'm pretty confident it's one of the Birminghams now, as we can see him a bit closer, and also just from his behavior, the fact that he is scent marking. It does look like he's tracking the Nkahuma girls by scent. So maybe he'll take the tracking duties off my shoulders today. No, you're going the wrong way. Turn around. And he's just giving that quarry bush a good sniff and scent mark. Now, the Birminghams haven't been up here too often in the last couple of months. Now, they've been spending quite a lot of time in the south. And, oh, he's going to roar. This little contact roar he did there. How the lady's going to respond to him is the question. There it is again. Lots of those little contact roars as he walks directly towards us. There we go. I'm hoping he decides to take these contact roars into a full roar shortly. Magnificent beastie. Oh, look at that light coming onto his face. Okay. Get with him again. So, Chris is wondering, by lying down, that waterbuck confuse the lion by lying down. I don't think so. I don't think when that waterbuck lay down, it knew that the lion was there. Now, the impala have spotted him. So I was just going to be on the Game Drive channel for a second. Mike. Mike, he has crossed into Vuyatilla, and he is heading straight sort of southwest, so he might cross into the western sectors. Oh, wait. Still those low contact calls. I wonder if he's not looking for those male lion tracks we were following. I think he's going to have to call a little bit louder than that to reach those other males. But who knows, maybe the Nkahuma ladies are close by somewhere. time to take a rest. Hello, big boy. That stick out of your way there, Wium?
Yeah.
So Natasha says, what a beauty. Do I think it could be Blondie? I'm not 100% sure, and maybe one of you guys can tell me which Birmingham boy this is. I'm quite sure it is a Birmingham boy, just from his behavior and his size and rough age. So he's probably about 5.5, 6 years old, coming into his prime, and has massive 4 paws. I love male lions and all the different scars and scratches and nicks that they carry. And it is tough at the top as a male lion. Lots of battles to be fought, not only with interlopers, but with the own members of your coalition. Now remember, guys, that clickety-click is my camera, so we do encourage screenshots and share them everywhere with the hashtag SafariLIVE. Morning, Goodwill. There's one Unangala just off Sandy Patch near the junction with Bofosok Kari cut line at Sydney's. Oh, so he's probably been moving quite a lot overnight. Oh, look at that light in his eyes. So his ears are still just rotating around, listening. Canada Keith says, what an awesome start to the drive. Well, I couldn't concur more. Now, hopefully it can just become more awesome from here. Can you hear that very harsh quack, 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 quack in the background? And that's a Swanson's spurfowl calling. Definitely not the most beautiful bird call in the bush. And then you might also be able to hear a very high-pitched little blue waxbills. So he's still got a little bit of filling out to do in the mane, but not all male lions develop that full massive mane, and you do have different coloration. You see it's starting to get a bit darker. Such an important part of a male lion, offers huge protection when they are fighting. He's just moving his head from side to side, listening. Hoping to hear either contact calls or alarm calls. You can see the flies already descending. looks like he's almost closing his eyes to try to keep the flies away. You can just hear the rest of the bush waking up. Crested francolins, Cape turtle doves. Oh, another little contact roar. Oh, there's a short break. And isn't this absolutely spectacular, being able to follow this male lion in this absolutely gorgeous morning light. So, lions have obviously a far more developed sense of scent than we do. JB in Michigan is wondering, can he tell which way to go by scent? Most definitely, as if the scent's fresh enough, he'll definitely be able to tell. I'm just gonna zoot on ahead, try and get up ahead of him. Zigzag our way through all these trees that have seen the attentions of the elephants. Oh, he's stopping for another break. Let's try and get in this slightly more pleasant spot for us. He's right out in the open. Hey, mister. Here, a woodpecker starting to look for his breakfast. He's listening intently. Well, thanks to Angie in Ohio, who says this is Birmingham boy number 4. So I got a report from the guys up in the Manuleti that one of those Salati males looked like he took quite a beating from the B-boys, or the Brummies, as they are known to most of the guides in this part of the world. So it is going to be quite a scorcher today, I think, with the mercury heading well into the 90s Fahrenheit, 30s Celsius. So there's a strong possibility he's not going to move too much more. I think it's probably already mid-70s in Fahrenheit. And we're not even at 7 a.m. yet. I just need to get hold of James quickly. James. James Henry, do you copy? It seems like James might be off the vehicle at the moment. Stations of Swanunangala is now lying up just to the west of Sandy Patch Road and just to the south of Buffelshoek Ngari cut line. One station here, two making their way. Of course. Oh, there we go. A little contact call again. Oh. On the move again. Try keep up with him. He is heading to an area that is particularly challenging to off-road through because of the amount of trees the elephants have pushed over. So Lynn in Michigan is wondering, could this be the lion that I heard roaring on the Juma cam this morning? It is possible, but there was another male that walked straight across quarantine during the night, so that could have been him as well. Standing by, Mike. Negative, near Sydney's dam, but now moving southwest towards vertical access. See, he's going into this area where the elephants have pushed over every tree. So I'm just going to have to try to stay a little bit wider of him. We'll try to stick with him. A lookout. I thought maybe he might be on the trail of the Nkumas, maybe not. He might have decided that they've gone too far and he's going to go look for the rest of his coalition. Go to position. Copy. My recommendation is take Sandy Patch and come around to vertical access. I'm in the middle of the block between Sydney's and vertical access, probably 100 meters from access, where there's a large scotia just to the south of the road and some mud wallows. He's going to pop up around there. And take Sandy Patch. Hold on, we're going to do some log hopping. There we go. Oh, we're going to have to do a little bit more speed. Wium, you ready? There we go. Hey, mister. So a big SafariLIVE welcome to Getherson, who's a brand spanking new viewer, and wondering, why does this lion let me drive so close to it? Why does it let me follow it? Well, there's a couple of reasons. These lions have grown up with safari vehicles around them, and they do not have an instinctive response to safari vehicles. So if I had to walk up to him, he would probably run away during the day, and at night he would try to eat me. But a car smells like, the alcohol smells like petrol and oil. Oh, there we go, he's in a scent mark. And as long as you drive respectfully and you don't cross that personal space boundary with them, they pretty much ignore the vehicles, which enables us to take you on these incredible safaris following some of Africa's most large and wonderful animals. So it looks like he's going to pop out almost exactly where Mr. Tingana had that warthog kill a couple of days ago. You okay, Wium? Okay. He's taking us through a bit of a bad spot. We'll have to do some quick maneuvering so we don't lose him. Dearie me, where are we going to get through here? I'm just trying to find a gap to get through to the road. Oh, that would have been very close. Wium? Is he running?
No, he just looked
Scent marking, but he's been spotted by impala. Oh, sorry, Wium. We're nearly there. Now listen to this. Listen to all these alarm calls. Now, we heard monkeys saying, lion, lion, lion earlier. Now we got impala doing the same thing. I think he smelt the remnants of that carcass Tingana was feeding on. This is exactly where he had that warthog kill. He might roll in the nice rotten smell. So once an animal's been spotted and alarm calls like this, the hunt's sort of over. Now, it was so funny. There was an impala right around that bush. And as the lion walked around it, he got a bit of fright. Mike coming. Mike, I would come a bit faster. He's now in the block, heading sort of straight south along those mud wallows from that big scotia. So Sheila says, cat a day. Today, yes, so far it is. What a fantastic start to the sunrise safari, Sheila. I think he might be heading towards where we had the tracks of that other male this morning. Listen to those impalas, they're going bananas. Now, two males have got confused and are actually chasing each other, and that's impala rutting. So when this happens, sometimes they get very silly and might run straight into a lion. They almost seem to forget. Mike, we're now getting close to Triple M. So just a quick update on Commander Bond. Unfortunately, it seems like the gremlins have invaded him so far this morning, so he has headed back for the tech team to try a few tricks. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he'll be back with us shortly. Oh. Gilly has said those impalas were shouting lion, lion, just slightly different to the wildebeest and Billy Connolly. He's crossing out of our traverse area, I'm afraid. So I'm afraid we're going to see his bottom disappear. Stations as Wanunangala has crossed Triple M into Simbambili, just to the west of One Eye Pan. We're just going to stay here in case he decides to come back. Stations in the west, do you copy? Single Birmingham's just crossed over Triple M, just to the west of One Eye Pan, heading sort of southwest into the block. I'll drop a branch to mark it for you guys. So I was hoping he might loop back, but doesn't look like it. I'm just going to drop a branch so the guys from the west know exactly where he crossed, so they can follow up. You still see him there? No, disappeared. Yeah, that looks like a useful branch. So this is how we mark for other vehicles. So whether it's for tracks or for where a sighting is. So Cheryl in California wonders, are the cameramen strapped in, or do they have to hold on for dear life? Well, they hold on for dear life, Cheryl. Let's see if we can maybe get one last glimpse as he disappears, but I think he has gone too far. He's heading, oh, is that him there? Nope. So the other male we tracked this morning actually just went straight south down this road. Okay, so unfortunately for us, that's the end of the line. He's crossed to the western sectors. I'm just going to find a spot to turn around. And we'll go see if we can find any more sign of those Nkahuma ladies. Sorry guys, just giving an update here on the Game Drive channel. I've dropped a Combriton branch where that one on a Gala crossed. I'm going to head back to the north, follow up on Bonzo and Gormers. Good luck. Okay. Let's carry on. Head straight back into that last area where we were trying to figure out which way the Nkahumas were going. I do have a sneaky suspicion that they crossed into the north into Buffelshoek, but that doesn't mean they might loop back round south. Stations that Wanunangala has crossed into Sibambili, just to the west of One Eye Pan. I'm leaving the area, going to follow up on last tracks of Nkahumas around Sydney's Mati. Deja vu. Feels like we were just here. I have another question again from a Ninja Fuzzy Kid. Fuzzy Kitty wondering how long do lions live for? Lionesses in the wild are normally about 14 to 15 years old. Males 12 to 13, even probably 12 is a very old male lion. So there's a lot more competition amongst the males and the females in terms of for territories and home ranges. In captivity, they can live over 20 years, but in the wild, where it's a bit more tough and lots of competition, but you're looking at about 15 years for females and about 12 years for males. Sorry about that, that's just a little bit of a bad signal area there. So it looks like we threw it. So as I was saying, sort of male lions, oh, go squirrel. Doom. At least it wasn't a suicidal squirrel like last night. We literally decided to do that almost under our tires. But lion coalitions generally only have about four years at the top. There's a very important reason for this. It's to ensure that they don't mate with their own daughters. So it's a sort of a thing, but occasionally, oh hello. Occasionally they will happen, but lions are able to inbreed for quite a few generations before any negative impact on their genetic line. There's a track of a lioness going at quite some speed here. So the Nkuhumas could still be around. Am I too close for him? Yep. Yeah, so it's a running track, or jogging, probably better described than running. There it is. And and you can see how the edges aren't very defined and how it's actually hit the ground with a bit of pace. So it looks like the same size as a male lion, but that's because it's a female and she's run through that soft sand. So the incumbents could... a very close eye on what's going here, so I apologize if I'm not looking at you. My head is constantly down. So we're moving out of this slightly shaky signal area, and we'll keep moving out of this area. So we're just checking above and beyond where we saw those last tracks heading to the south, just to make sure they haven't split up or looped back. Or hyena tracks, but I'm not in search of hyenas just yet. So while I'm got my head to the ground looking for tracks, I'll answer a question from Natasha in Ontario. Natasha would like to know, how high can a lion jump, and do male lions jump higher than females? I've seen a female probably jump 2 meters in the air or so, but I definitely would say females can jump higher than males, just purely because they're lighter. A male lion is so heavy, it's quite difficult for him to jump too high, but they can jump. And females probably a little bit better than the males. There's been lots of ellies around here, which is making life a little difficult in terms of tracking there. A big herd of elephants can quite easily obliterate the tracks of some private lions. Mark, I've only got a single track of a lioness coming back onto Vuya's. I'd check around Hardicle access, that area for Nkomas. Copy, thanks. So that single track of a lioness, definitely running going this way, but the majority of the tracks have crossed into Buffel's Hook. So I'll just have a quick squiz here. But I'm pretty sure if they didn't actually make that kill, they would have turned around and gone and joined the rest of them. Okay, no, nada, looks nothing here. So we're gonna move on. Siberia is wondering how much home range or territory can a male coalition claim. It all depends on the coalition and how many individuals, how many prides of females are available. The Birminghams are currently probably sitting around 15, maybe a bit more than that, maybe closer to 20,000 hectares, which is quite big. But, for example, the Mapocho coalition at one stage were controlling around 45,000 hectares. And there's a little duiker sleeping here. He might run. Hello, little boy. So quite often they disappear. This one is pretending we haven't seen it yet. Hello, little duiker. Oh, shame. I can just see him moving his legs like he's about to run, so we don't want to disturb him just yet. Just leave him be. A little Grimm's bush duiker. So what we will do is we're going to check further down to the east. Maybe those lions have come back. They quite often do that, go for a loop. They don't seem to go too far north at the moment because of the Salati males and the Talamati females. But with the Birminghams being up in that area and causing some havoc there, maybe they're feeling safe to move further north again. See, it's already really bright. It's going to be quite a warm day, and that exquisite morning light is sort of fading into that sort of bright African sunshine at the moment. So it seems like the tech geniuses have beaten down the gremlins, and James and Bryan are back out on the road. So let's go see what they've been up to.
Well, what we've been up to, everybody, is basically sitting about the place waiting for Eugene and Connor. Connor, of course, bleary-eyed and still in his pajamas, to put the new aerial cable on Rusty. So that's why we lost you, I'm afraid. The aerial cable, just through wear and tear, I'm afraid, snapped. So that has now been fixed. And we are on the trail of the hyenas. Those, of course, are not hyenas at all. They are impala. And there's a huge herd of them here, frolicking about in the morning light in this grassland that is the quarantine clearings. There's just a really lovely picture there of them enjoying the safety of the clearing, because they can see what might want to come and eat them. And also, of course, they're enjoying their breakfast of fresh green sprouts of delicious grass. The only other thing I would like to show you here, Bryan, in this tree is a little black bird. You see in the apple leaf, leaning over tree over there. That's the one. That's the one. If you just zoom straight in there, you'll get him.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Just keep going. That horizontal branch to the left, halfway up the trunk, that's him. He's in there. That's it, you got it. There's just a fork-tailed drongo, and he too is enjoying the morning light, and just nipping around, gleaning insects, hawking a few of them. And all is a peace and marvelousness out here in the wild. Now, the update on the hyenas, excuse the light is bright in my eyes, is that the drag mark went straight across this road, then it crossed over the Gallagher shortcut. We did check Aubrey's Road, which is the next road along, didn't find it crossing there. We did find where some elephants had been, so the elephants could have kind of gone over the tracks. We're not sure, though. Let me turn Leo Smith off. And so I think it's probably worth us spending a little bit more time trying to find those, and let's see what happens. Maybe we'll find the den. That block is not particularly big, so we're just going to drive up there and have a little look and see. Because, of course, to be without the hyena den is deeply distressing for me and many of you as well. Hello, Dave in New Jersey. You're still waiting to see a snake. Well, Dave, you're in a minority because most people, of course, are terrified out of their wits by snakes. And you say, is it a possibility? Yes, it most certainly is a possibility. Bush is quite thick, but there are lots of snakes around. I saw one on my way in here the other day, a Mozambican spitting cobra. They're quite common, not unusual for us to find them around camp. Black mamba's pretty common. A puff adder should be quite common. I haven't seen one here, although one or two people have. I haven't seen one. Brown house snakes, worm-sung tree snakes, vine snakes, spotted bush snakes. So there are a lot around the place, and hopefully we'll see some for you, Dave. Most common snake, I don't know what it would be here actually. It would probably be something like one of the sort of shovel-nosed burrowing snakes or something like that. You know, little ones we don't often see. Now, I will show you where the drag mark that these hyenas walked across. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, a drag mark is basically if you were to take a pillow or a sack and drag it along the ground, you would leave a mark. Now, the same goes for a hyena that is dragging some piece of impala or perhaps a kudu or maybe something even larger along the ground. It leaves a mark. You know it's a hyena that's left it, of course, because there are hyena tracks next to the mark. Now, just over here, up ahead, you will be able to see what I mean. They'll pop out just over here. They go up through there. That's right. They've gone up through there. You can see a game path there. I don't know actually if you'll be able to see any drag mark on it, but that's where they've gone. It has gone. And let me just pop out the car quickly and let's see if we can find some sign. Yeah, so they came along here. Having come, you can see the path just down sort of into the sun, and they came along here dragging whatever it was, and then they came out onto the road, and we've driven up and down here, of course, a few times, so you can't see it anymore, but they dragged whatever it was onto the road here and then pulled it across into here. And you can just see very light scrapes. I don't think you'll be able to see them, but light scrapes through here. So I suspect that they've gone along this game path here. Now, the other thing we did was we heard that call that they often make at the den, that call that goes, ooh, ooh, you know, when the mothers are trying to bring their youngsters out of the burrow, out of the dens. So they could be around here. Anyway, I think we'll keep having a look. Of course, if we want to use sound to find them, this is not going to be a particularly good time of the day. It's starting to get hot already, and so things are going to quieten down, and I think you'll find that the den will go to sleep. Anyway, I'm hopeful that they're still on the reserve and that they haven't gone north into Buffelshoek. That was Brent's fear, and I think it's quite a good one because there were lots of tracks going to and from, but of course that's because Sydney's dam is nearby, and there's always lots of activity there. Anyway, that's the story with the hyenas at the moment. What's that? Spiderweb. Ah, spiderweb. Oh, that's very kind of Brent Leo Smith. He says he's giving me 2 days to find the hyenas before he finds them. That sounds A, like fighting talk, and B, like a whole lot of nonsense, because of course he's hedging his bets. If I do find it, then he's lost nothing. If he then finds it, well, then he gains everything, of course. Now, I'm pretty sure that they're still around here. There are hyena tracks on the road, but I mean, you're going to find hyena tracks all over the place after night anyway. So, that's the story with the hyenas. I do need to go on there on foot if I'm going to find them, so I think what we'll do is leave them for now, because we're not going to hear much noise from them. And let's go on and just check the southern boundary and see what's happening over there. It's just so lovely to see all of this grass and all of the flowers that the grass flowers that the rain has brought. But the one thing about that, of course, is that it brings tremendous amounts of pollen. And pollen, for some of us, is something of an irritation in the nasal passages. So I have found that my nose is streaming somewhat. Bryan also suffers from the odd allergy. Not so, Bryan?
Yep.
Poor old Bryan.
Thanks.
It's okay. We'll get over it.
No, we'll survive.
We'll survive.
We'll push on.
We'll push on, forge ahead. What I'd like to show you is just the great swathe of them. Lots of different species of grass, and I think that grass in a garden is a brilliant idea. Simply because it does produce the most beautiful flowers. I mean, look at this one sitting in the light here. Chloris roxburghiana. Apart from its name, look at it shining there in the dawn light. Stunning. And just below that, a white flower, which I think is a trachyandra of some sort. I'm not really sure. Oh, a brilliant viewer, and I forget exactly whom it was, yesterday pointed out that the tiny white flower that I found, that's the trachyandra, I think, the tiny white flower that I found yesterday was in fact Oldenlandia. Now, most of you will have forgotten that because it wasn't particularly distinctive, but I'll try and find another one. Oldenlandia. And then one more grass plant, just a little bit forward. There, this one here, with the fingers, unsurprisingly called Digitaria, which means basically fingers. Digitaria eriantha. And you can see there, if you look carefully, the little black bits on the end of those little flowers, each of those little pieces on those digitate stalks is a flower. And each of them produces a little stamen which is filled with pollen. And there's even a little spider's web there. Isn't that beautiful? So that's Digitaria eriantha. Very good grazing grass. Indicates that the rangeland here is healthy and supporting, or could support many animals. And indeed it does. If we drive around quarantine clearings, lots and lots of different animals there. So we're going to go down to the south, see if we can't pick up some tracks of the infamous Muscarula. Of course, it is now the 2nd of April, so if we find those cubs, there's no reason for us not to be viewing them at this stage. They're now 2 months old. Well, 1 day off, 2 months old. But I think they are probably still to the south of the boundary. Question that I'm going to answer from Charlotte and Port Elizabeth shortly, but just watch what's going on here. This. Now, what you have here is a ram impala who has not learned that this is the wrong time to be setting up his territory. So you can see him there going, oh, oh, oh. There's a male running off in the background, and these females are now being herded by him. You can see they were standing looking a little bit alarmed on top of the termite mound. And what he's doing is trying to herd them. Now, they will all come into estrus, of course, in the middle of May, but there's no ways he will be able to maintain a territory until then, because he's not even eating now. All he's thinking about is fighting off rivals and keeping them within a territory, which means that he's going to start losing condition. And when he does that, he becomes weaker, and eventually he's going to be replaced by a stronger male. So if you want to mate, as I've said, and I will say this over the next little while, if you're an impala and you want to mate, you have got to time it exactly so that when you are, when the females are receptive, which is a very short period in the middle of May, you have your territory set up exactly at that time. So this male impala is wasting his time at the moment. Beautiful, beautiful morning. All impala enjoying the fresh grasses. And Charlotte, sorry, I forgot about your question there. The geckos, you say, do we get geckos here? We do, and you want to know what their habitat is. Their habitat is basically on my wall in my room, and Bryan's wall as well, I'm sure. But they also occur in similar kind of structures around here. So by similar kinds of structures, I mean on trees. We sometimes find them on trees, well, largely on trees, I guess, very seldom on the ground. I've seen a few of them on termite mounds, but that's where you'd find a gecko. Now, you also want to know why it is that their dung, or defecant, is white. Why is it white in color? You'll notice, Charlotte, that it's actually very similar to that of birds. That's, of course, because they are quite closely related. And it's white because I actually don't know exactly why it's white, but it's liquid and the same color as birds because it comes out of the same opening. There's only one opening in the reptile and the bird, and that's called the cloaca. And urine and feces comes out of the same hole and in the same motion. So it's all kind of mixed together. Why it's white, I actually don't know. I can only think that it comes perhaps from the keratin, except keratin isn't really white, but maybe it's from the keratin of the insects that they eat. They, of course, are predators, and they will hunt things like flies, thankfully. Not enough of them, in my opinion, but they eat that sort of thing, and maybe it's the keratin, which is indigestible, that eventually turns white in the feces and the urine. But I'm actually not sure why it's white. But it is the same, feces and urine come out of the same opening in the same kind of action, same motion as it does with birds. Reptiles and birds, of course, well, while not closely related, are slightly more closely related than we are, for example, to birds or to reptiles. Lots and lots of elephant tracks around, and of course they will obscure any other tracks. Now, this hyena, if you look down the road here, everybody, you will see a lot of tire tracks, but you will also see there, just over the top of my finger, a line. And on the line, you can see some tracks of hyenas there. There's one. There's another one. That is the drag mark. Now, we're a long way from where we originally started following it. We're also a long way from where we originally left it, going across the Gallagher shortcut. So whatever this was has been dragged a very long way, and it's been crossed over by elephants a few times. Not so much here, but certainly further up where we were trying to actually follow it. So that's quite interesting. I mean, this indicates that it's the dominant female, or certainly one of the dominant females, that's dragging something back to the den. We know, of course, that subdominant females will not usually drag these things back towards a den site, simply because they'll have it stolen by more dominant members. But it will be interesting to know what's at the end of this, and perhaps she stole it from a leopard. I think that's quite likely, actually, unless it was the piece of something off a lion killed. Let's follow it down. We're still on the back end of this drag mark now. I must say, it seemed to get less and less distinct the closer towards the north we went, and maybe whoever this hyena was snacking on bits and pieces of it as she went. There, it comes out of there. See that, Bryan? Yeah. Come straight out of there. Thank you, Carol. It's very kind of you. You say that I'm the master of finding dens. I think I've actually only ever found one, to be honest. But I've found a couple of previously active ones active again. I think it's just a process of elimination, but thank you, Carol. We're definitely going to try and find this one if it isn't on Google's hook. So let's head off down here. I don't think, this drag mark seemed to come out of the block here. Maybe there's a male leopard there looking a bit angry because he's had his meal stolen from him. This is a track called Ingbe Alley, which means leopard alley. I've actually seen a few leopards on this road. Karula, Burundian Tingana in the throes of passion. It's also interesting how the hyenas will take what they steal straight out onto the first road that they can, simply because it's easier for them to drag them along the road. There we go. Yeah. She's come along this road here. It has been obscured slightly by buffalo going up and down. But we're just going to gently kind of follow this thing backwards, see if we can't find what it originally was, but we'll stop at whatever else we see on the way as well. Lots of elephant tracks around, and why we haven't seen any of them today, I don't really know. And I'd be fascinated to know. I haven't obviously been speaking to Brent because we have been down. I'd love to know from you which lion you think that was. I think that's quite interesting. Was it perhaps a male of the Shimongwe pride? Any ideas as to which male lion that was that you saw this morning? Ah, it was a Birmingham, apparently. Birmingham 4 or Blondie. Poor old Blondie. You don't want to be known as Blondie if you're a male lion. Of course, the blacker the mane, normally the more dominant they are. Poor old Birmingham 4, aka Blondie, going to live a life of subjugation. I also just love these pans. We get a little bit of rain. You see warthogs and buffalo and elephants really enjoy them too. But you get the terrapins and the insects and the birds, especially in the summer months before some of the birds have started to migrate, which of course most have at this stage. You know, they'll come down and drink here. Swallows will fetch mud. Or, Brian, I don't know if this is too far away from you. At least too close to the car. Can you see the butterfly?
Oh, yes, sir.
There's a monarch butterfly, everybody. And it's feeding on the nectar in that flower. A flower whose name I have learned 576 times and failed to remember. So anybody who can help me with that would be great. It's such a common flower. Anyway, while I'm trying to remember that, let's head across to Brent, get an update from him. I'll continue to see if I can find the end of this hyena drag mark.
So Wium and I have just spotted an absolutely fascinating track. We can't show it to you yet. It's very obscure and it's been driven over a bit. But it is a track I have not seen in many months. And it looks to be the track of a female cheetah. So we're just having a quick look around this area. Hopefully, it might have popped through. There was one seen in Buffalo's Hook last night, but apparently she's a very skittish individual. But the tracks have been driven over, which does make it very difficult for us to have an exact location on them. They did seem to come off our northern boundary towards the Buffalo's Hook waterhole. And just looking at the tracks, I'm not convinced that they're from yesterday or from last night. I think they could be from earlier. So we will just double check. It is on a very busy thoroughfare. So I just want to make 100% sure that there's not a cheetah on property and we don't even know about it. Oh, but we do have a very big herd of elephants. And there is a very big problem for cheetah tracking, because I was hoping the cheetah tracks were going to come out. They look a little bit upset, not necessarily at us, but they are corralling, which they do sometimes when they smell or see a predator, or there could be a muster bull that's harassing them. Hello, elephants. Lovely big group. that's causing this behavior. Quite little ease in between. So far, their body language towards us is not showing any sign of aggression. There are a few young bulls who might be a bit uppity, but it looks like they're actually going to engulf us. Hello, mister. So, I mean, his trunk is probably 3 feet from us as he's eating grass there. Young bull. Really, really awesome. I love spending time with Ellies like this. And when we get these herds that are so relaxed, we are, look at them spraying dust. We just got the wind to blow dust all over us. Oh, there we have them. Got another little one coming right up to us. Oh, you can barely see there's so much dust. Hey, little guys. You can hear that of the guy kicking up the dust. Oh, itchy ear. Oh, look at this. I'm just watching that it's going for the grass and not actually having a sniff and touching the vehicle. So at this young age, you still want to make sure that they don't do that. So especially this guy's a young bull, so he's small now, but he might get to 6,000 kilograms. Good boy. You just eat your grass. Scratch your ear. So here we've got a bull in his 20s, and you can see he's quite significantly taller than the others, and he's probably the one that caused that little, there you go, he's going to harass a big female there. That is a massive female. Wow. That is an incredibly large female elephant. And he's harassing her. Now, you can see he's higher in the shoulder already, but she is an incredibly big female. And that little bit of trumpeting and the reason they were all corralled together when we arrived is more than likely because of this young bull. Wow, she's big. Sorry, I know I keep saying that, but that is a massive cow. You know, look at that, she is a massive female. And most females probably weigh about just under 3,000 kilograms, 3 ton. I'd say she's probably close on 4,000, so very big female. Rava in Tucson is wondering, have I ever heard an elephant sneeze? I have, it is quite amusing. It doesn't happen too often. Here comes this young bull, who I think is the reason for the slight distress when we arrived. So there's a lot of very big bulls in Must at the moment. So it's unlikely he'll be in must, but he still can be quite annoying to the breeding herds. You know, it looks like he's going to go harass that same female again. And you can see the size difference there, and he's a young bull. He's still got quite a bit of growing to do, and he's already taller than that extremely large female. We're going to move off into some quite thick areas, and we're not going to off-road with them. There's no need. We had such a splendid sighting of them, and especially with that young male around causing a little bit of angst, is probably the correct word. So Cheryl is asking for a bit of clarification on male and female head shapes. So the females have more angular. When the males are young, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. But there we go. So that is a female. You see that slightly more angular head shape, and the male slightly more rounded. And there we go. So we're going to leave this big breeding herd. I'm still really hoping I can find some of these cheetah tracks, but we'll see what happens. So while we check very carefully around here, let's hope that James has got something fascinating to show you.
So, as you've seen there with those elephants, they move around the place, and you can imagine now Brent's going to try and follow a cheetah track that is around where those elephants have been, and that's going to prove very difficult, simply because they're moving all over the place, so it's very difficult to try and follow the tracks. I haven't found any further sign of the hyenas or their drag mark. So we're on the southern boundary now, and just seeing if anything doesn't come across. Maybe, perhaps, Karula, but I haven't heard of any. I'm just listening on the radio now. It's interesting. I'll tell you now. So shadow is on Arathusa, the cubs are fine, but the area is closed off, so we can't go there. Anyway, so we're just going to quietly drive along here and hope that Shadow's mother is perhaps closer by. I'm just listening to the radio. It's going fairly vociferously in my ear about not very much. Of course, if you are a guide and you're bored and you can't find anything, then you talk to your colleagues on the radio rather than to your guests, because that just tends to be a bit easier. And unfortunately, it's precisely what's going on in my ear as we speak. So I can't see any further tracks of a leopard. So I think what we'll do is head towards Treehouse Dam, see what awaits us there. Perhaps some more elephants. Lots and lots of elephant tracks, and I know that you have seen them, Brent. Beautiful morning. Clear blue skies, not a cloud. I don't know where the rain warnings came from. Perhaps Kirsten will let us know if there is indeed likely to be any rain today. But we're now, as I said yesterday, heading towards the sort of dryish season, or the drier part of the season, the end of the rainy season. But maybe because we've had such a dry year, and because weather patterns seem to be so far out at the moment, we might have a bit of late season rain. I don't think we're going to have any rain. The temperatures are so lovely this time of year. Crystal, a very nice question. You seem it's more obvious that we're seeing young bull elephants rather than young cows. And Crystal, it's not so much that we're seeing more young bulls. We are seeing some young bulls. There's a group of them, of course, and sometimes they'll stay in an area for a period, and so you'll see them quite often. There is a female leopard track going straight in there. This is Karula. It's not very fresh. It's also very small. Not small enough to be a cub. Karula's not a large lady. One calls a lady large at one's peril, of course, but they don't look very fresh to me. But let's go across there. Oh, I've just stalled the vehicle. This is a good time to get hold of Brent Smith. Go ahead, Brent. I'm going to turn him on so you can hear him.
James, just a report from the east. Noticed some leopards heading towards, we're heading towards sort of...
some leopards heading towards this way?
They went flat just to the south of that junction, but they were leopards unattended. So if you are in that area, it might be worth having a look.
Confirm some leopards?
Mating leopards.
Ah, mating leopards. Okay, copy that. Thanks, Brent. I've got tracks of one female heading north across Gowrie Main, about 200 meters to the east of the junction with Shabamba.
Okay,
So I'm not sure if you managed to hear all that. Copy, thanks. But basically, Brent is not close to this area, but he'll come down here. Let's just drive along the rest of this road. I don't think that they were very fresh, those tracks, and the mating pair would have been just up ahead here when they went flat. Now, we know that mating leopards don't sleep particularly soundly, and so they may well come across the road. They were left unattended, as Brent said. Let's just see. Maybe we'll get lucky. I suspect quite strongly that will be Tingana and Tundi again. Because there will be a lot of cubs around if they all manage to produce. And Tingana will be the proud father of dozens of cubs around here. He has given us spectacular value over the last little while. So there were definitely no little cub tracks there. Anyway, so, sorry, we were just finishing Crystal's question there about elephant cows and elephant bulls and young ones. So, Crystal, the young cows are going to be in the herds. So you won't find them on their own, so they're not as obvious as the young bulls are. And that group of 4 or 5 young bulls that have been hanging around quarantine clearings, they are a little bit more playful than the females, absolutely, in the same way that young teenage boys are. Well, they're not more playful than oh, look, sorry, Crystal, I'll get back to you. It's a Gabar goshawk. I really did land you in it there. Sorry about that, Brian.
I got a little bit.
You got a little bit. Okay. Gabar goshawk, everybody. Small raptor, or accipiter, as we call them. And Crystal, the young, exactly the same as with human beings. Young girls, say 15 to 20 years old, they are very playful, but they're not physically playful, so they don't kind of push each other around. Young men, aged 15 to 20, they're also playful, they'll push each other around, and there will be an element of dominance hierarchy going on there. And that's exactly the same as with elephants. So the young bulls will be pushing each other around, playing. Yes, they're establishing a dominance hierarchy. The young cows, I've no doubt they're chatting to each other in the herds, but they are not as obviously playful, but they certainly will be playful. Now, of course, at this stage of the game, it's quite easy to confuse a civet track with a baby leopard track. But that's definitely a civet that I can see over there. Not clear enough to show you, I'm afraid. Right. For those of you who don't know, a civet is a sort of, well, it's called a vivarid, which means it belongs to a family on its own, quite closely related to the cats and to the mongoose. But not a mongoose or a cat. And it's a sort of black and white striped animal. The most easy way to describe it to you, of course, is rather to just show you a picture. So we're coming into the area where those leopards were seen mating. So what I'll do is just stop a little bit further ahead. And we'll just listen and see if we can't hear them, because leopards are not quiet maters. They make a very loud noise. That is a female leopard track too, not a baby. Let's just stop here and listen for a while. Now, Karula, of course, has been up and down all over this road over the last little while. She's been keeping her den to the south and east of where we are now. That's basically in that direction over there, back and to the left. So let's just listen for a little while, and I'll show you a picture of a civet. There is a civet. And above it, the genets. Small spotted cat, the African wildcat. I don't hear any loud growling. So I'm going to continue along the road here and just continue looking for tracks. This looks to me, you see, it's too big to be one of those baby leopards yet, but it doesn't. It looks like a cat. Maybe it's a caracal. Anyway, we're going to drive along here, see if we can't hear a sign of those mating leopards. While we do that, let's go back across to Brent, get an update from him, and I'll keep you posted.
So unfortunately, no more sign of those cheetah tracks. Now, the interesting thing about cheetah, compared to the other big cats, is they will spend less time walking on the roads. And that's mainly because lion, leopard, and hyena really like walking down roads. So it's to avoid. So they'll often not even use the big elephant paths, and they'll go through the blocks. But I don't feel those tracks are fresh. I feel they're possibly 2 days old, judging from the how many vehicles have driven over them and the fact that the edges are very, very undefined. Now, there is a building site in Buffelshoek at the moment, so it could be the tracks are a little bit more fresh than I think, but there's just been so many vehicles there, and then combined with the elephants, it's near impossible. But very exciting. James has got those female leopard tracks, and I'm not sure if he gave you the update that there was a possible mating pair of leopard heading towards Djuma as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly drop into that area and give James a hand and maybe just go further to the south. Chris Ray says, with all the cubs around, maybe Tingana will have a break from his mating duties, but it sounds like he's at it again. So I wonder which female it could be. It could be Tandi. Maybe she didn't conceive from the last bout of mating. So very, very interesting. And one must remember that female leopards will move well out of territory to mate. So even if all our females have cubs, it's possible that the others don't, and they'll move into the area to look for Tingana to mate with. So who knows? Possibly, maybe, fingers crossed, we get another female leopard we haven't seen before who's moving into the area to mate with Tingana. And it does seem that Djuma is a popular honeymoon spot for mating leopards. Now, the reason for this is a recent, in terms of Tingana's territory, it's quite a recent acquisition, the whole of Djuma. So he does spend quite a bit of time scent marking it and calling, and the fact that they had this Gajima male and Mvula hanging around, it's possibly that he's spending a little bit more time in patrolling Djuma than he is in other parts of his territory. He's in the north. So while about that. So while the Salatis are putting in pressure from the north there, the Birminghams are actually moving a lot more, because there are other male lions down to the south in the Sand River that I think they're here calling. I think those are called the Machapiri males. So that's why they have been spending quite a bit of time in the south. But now they're splitting their time, because all of a sudden the Salatis haven't heard them too close for quite a while, so they've started pushing more and more to the sort of southwest, and that's prompted that Birmingham excursion way up to the north. And you'll probably find the reason Tingana is moving so heavily is because of that Gajima male and Mvula, and possibly another male from the Manyeleti. So there's competition on the territory. So he's going to be moving through it a lot more often, scent marking a lot more often, calling a lot more often. The opportunity on a nice downhill like this, it's always good to turn off the vehicle so you can carry on driving and listening. Safari Dean says he wants to be reincarnated as Tingana with all the ladies that pursue him. Is an absolutely clear day now, but there is quite a breeze at the moment, but I think it's going to develop into quite a strong wind during the day. And it is, even though it's getting hot, it's still getting very hot. It's a very dry heat, and very much heading towards the colder months. There's a bit of a nip in the air. It was lacking this morning though. But it is going to be a very exciting dry season in terms of predator sightings, I feel, especially with the add-on of more traverse at Cheetah Plains, giving us access to a whole host of other leopards, as well as a good chance at seeing cheetah on a more regular basis.
So nothing yet, I'm afraid. The gremlins, of course, continue to hamper our efforts, but no leopard tracks at this stage. So what we're going to do is go towards Treehouse Dam. Hang on a second. What's going on here? Ah, that's Eugene. Eugene in his vehicle has obviously been to Arathusa. Eugene of... No, it's not Eugene. It looks like Eugene's car. Now Brent is hailing me on the radio. Go ahead.
James, where would you like me to check?
Brent, anywhere you like at this stage. I'm going to go and check Treehouse Dam.
Copy.
So we're going to go and check Treehouse Dam. There's a very beautiful yellow flower here that I wanted to show you as well. There. Now Brent saw some butterflies eating there the other day. And that's called Senna petitiana. Now, principal, you're in Mexico, which is sounds like a wonderful place to be. And principal, you want to know about whether or not the animals learn to use the roads. Principal, it's exactly the same as it is with human beings. It's just easier for them to walk along the roads because there's no grass, there are no obstacles. And so if the road is going sort of in the direction that they want to go, then that is what they'll do. They'll use the road or a game path which can lead to water. So that is Senna petitiana, and I think that's probably the flower on which Brent was trying to identify some caterpillars the other day. Is that correct?
Yep.
Interestingly, there were some citrus swallowtails around here. They are beautiful black and yellow butterflies, and I wonder if it's not them that are perhaps laying their eggs on this plant. And it's a very aromatic plant, so it smells, and that probably means that there are toxins in it, and that'll probably transfer the toxins to the caterpillars, which will make them unpalatable to birds. I suspect that's why they would lay their eggs on that particular plant. There's just so much endless stuff, an intimidating array of things to learn out here. Names of flowers, what eats them, where do all the myriad butterflies and moths lay their eggs, and what do their caterpillars eat? What do the thousands and thousands of species of insects out here eat? Which plants do they pollinate? How do they interact with each other? How long do they live? All of the same questions that we ask about mammals. So, I mean, if we see a lion, often the first thing that people say is, well, what does it eat? How often does it hunt? What does it weigh? Where does it live? How long does it live? And all those same sorts of questions, of course, can be asked about the insects and the arachnids and the birds and the reptiles and the flowers and the trees. There's just an endless array of things, an intimidating suite of knowledge you have to try and gain while you're out here. And that's why there's never a question, never a stage at which you get to a point that you understand everything. And Teresa in Virginia Beach, you want to see a baboon's tail. Now, for those of you who don't know, a baboon's tail is a plant that looks unsurprisingly like a, Bryan?
Baboon's tail.
Correct, like a baboon's tail. And Teresa, they are all around here, and so I will find one. And in fact, the road that leads down towards Treehouse Dam has absolutely got a lot of baboon's tails on it. Just going to turn the radio up slightly in my ear. Baboon's tail, not in this particular area. This lovely tree here is called a brown ivory, which is quite common. And we've seen that quite a lot. It's a very beautiful example. Berkemia discolor, for those of you who like to speak Latin. Do you speak Latin, Bryan?
Not very often, no.
I don't either anymore. You know, I used to, of course. I didn't really. Never met anyone who can actually speak Latin. Anna Marie, you want to know about Anderson, the Anderson male. Where's he been hanging out? You say he's starting to give up. There's a blue-headed tree agama, Brian, on this tree. I'm just going to go back. I think they will, of course, scuttle around the tree. This is a lizard, everyone. A tree-climbing lizard. I just saw it going up the tree, and of course, as soon as we get anywhere near it, we'll just go around the other side. Oh, there it is. It's a female. Can you see it? At the base, let me reverse back a bit. Okay, at the base of the tree, Brian, right at the base, you'll see on the right-hand side, it'll be almost invisible unless you zoom in on it. Keep going up a bit. There. That's it. There, you got him. There we go. That's the female blue-headed tree agama. Isn't that beautiful? Look how magnificently hidden she is. And how her color on her back specifically is exactly the same color as that of the bark of that Cambretum tree. The male, of course, who is less important to the survival of youngsters, has got a bright blue head, which means he probably gets eaten a lot more than she does. Isn't she cool? So you can't see the size there, but she's about, probably from tail tip to nose tip, about a foot long. She's about 30 centimeters or 12 inches. So she's quite big. Very fast, very good climber. And she's leapt into the tree like that to try and hide herself. She would have been on the ground, and she would have been eating insects there. Cool. Now, just as Brian zooms out, just appreciate the camouflage, because if we were to walk past this tree now, we would never see that. Never. That's brilliant. Isn't that cool? That's so cool. I particularly love her kind of, her eyeshadow. She's got some kind of sparkly eyeshadow. Very nice. Very nice. I think I was answering a question, wasn't I? No, it was just the baboon's tail, which we'd already discussed. I was waffling on about something or other, but I can't remember what it was. Such as the trouble of age creeping up on one. Very big year, this for me, Brian. I'm getting very old this year, you know.
Me too.
Are you? Yes, we're both getting quite old, aren't we? Now, Megan, you want to know a little bit more about the monkeys that are around here. And the monkeys around here are most obviously demonstrated by that one sitting in the car over there. That is Brent Leo Smith, of course. Hello, Brent.
Hello, Jamesy.
Yes. And
a little avoidance. I bet you Wium and I are going to find the leopard now.
Okay. Well, off you go then. Apparently heading towards Zoe's Road, so yeah, I think circling this area was probably quite a good idea. Okay, we'll check the water. See you shortly. Oh yes, and you can see Wium's beard. Before you drive off there, I've been talking about Wium's beard.
Blended.
Oh, yes.
So if we could just zoom in there, Brian. We've got a wonderful picture there of Wium's beard. Now, Paul Kruger, of course, whose name was given to this wilderness area we're in, not because he was a conservationist so much as because he was a biltong eater, but Paul Kruger, who looked very similar without the moustache, and I'm trying to convince Wium to shave off the moustache region so that we can just have a real good look at what Paul Kruger in his younger years looked like.
Try that. I'm tempted.
You're tempted. Good.
James does the exact same.
Never. See you later. Right, monkeys. Back to the monkeys of the area. Only 3 species, well, four species of primates, Megan. We get out here. 1, the human being, of course. Then you get 5. 2 species of bush baby or galago, the thick-tailed, which is very unusual here, and the lesser, which is quite common. They look like little lemurs. And then, of course, you get the vervet monkey. It's the only true monkey that we get out here. And then the chacma baboon, which is a wonderful, wonderful primate if you spend time with them. As long as they don't get too used to people, they can become a little bit of a menace if they get used to living around the camp. But those are the only 2 that we get here. Of course, up into the more forested areas of Central Africa, you get many, many different species of primate and different kinds of monkeys. Thank you for that, Megan. Right, we're now... This is the kind of area where you would find a baboon's tail. Slightly open, quite rocky, slightly poorly drained soil. And there will be one, if not on this road, just round the next corner. We will find one. So, Teresa, hold on. We'll drive a little bit faster to try and get there. Bryan, why is it that I've seen 700 baboons tails today, but I can't find one now? For love nor money. Okay, we will find one, I do promise you. Then, of course, the wild sesame, which is all over the place. Beautiful pink flower, there we go. And I'm sure Brent showed you this. He's obviously very good with his wild flowers. And the wild sesame, it's just too lovely. Isn't that nice? Not to be confused with the wild foxglove, which of course contains all sorts of nasty toxins.
What's that orange one in the back?
And the orange one at the back there, Bryan, thank you for that. That's called dropping your mate in it. Is a lion's eye or a roadside pimpernel, but because it's not open, and I'm not going to open it, I can't tell. So the roadside pimpernel's got a bright yellow center to it, and the lion's eye does not. Both bright orange flowers. Thank you, Bryan, for that.
You're very welcome, Tony.
Next sparrow that flies overhead, I'm going to point it out and insist that you track it. Come on, baboon's tail. Where are you? Here comes the turn off, Teresa. Just before we link to Brent, I think we are very close to the baboon's tail. I don't want to quickly find, I just want to quickly find it. So Kirsten, and if you don't mind, give me 1 second. It's just around there, on a left-hand side. Lots of them. Unless they've all been eaten by something. Oh, come on. I've lain in amongst them here. Teresa scoured this area. There they are. Thank goodness. There we go. There's a baboon's tail, Teresa. Quickly get out, and then I will link across to Brent. So this is the baboon's tail, obviously, and it looks like a baboon's tail. It produces very beautiful, very subtle smelling lily-like flowers, and they really do smell delicious. And this blue flower next to it is a commelina. An obvious commelina, well, it's not obvious commelina, I suppose. It's a commelina africana, which is the most common one that we get here. And that's the blue one, or the wandering Jew. And one last one over here, a fairly ropey example of hibiscus. But this one, of course, Bryan, I'm not sure if you'll know, what does this leaf look like? Does it look like any plant you've seen before?
I can't tell.
You can't tell. That's very good, Bryan. It looks a little bit like a cannabis leaf. which of course is an illegal substance out here, cannabis sativa, marijuana. And because of this shape of leaf, this particular hibiscus is called Hibiscus cannabinus. Without further ado, let us go across to Brent Leo Smith and hold him to his assertion that he is going to find the leopard.
So, I know James has been showing you a few flowers, and I've just spotted one I don't know. Now, that is actually a wonderful thing. So, I'm just going to collect a sample of it to take home and see if we can figure out what it is. Now, I definitely didn't see this particular flower last wet season. Now, what often happens is with a lot of flower species is that some of them will only flower every 2 or 3 years. Very interesting, very delicate little flowers. I'm going to pop it on the dash so you can have a closer look. And you can see how delicate those little flowers are. And I did see another flower that we do know. That's always interesting. While we're here. And I'm also using this opportunity.
Breaking up.
Using this opportunity to listen for possible mating leopards. So you know they make that incredible noise. So always good to stop and listen a little bit. And this is the area where they might cross into Djuma. So this little flower I haven't seen before, and definitely didn't see it in Djuma last wet season. And I don't actually remember seeing it ever before. I mean, tiny, very delicate, very, very, very specific. So I'm gonna have to try to do some research on this little guy. Very, very interesting. Now, the flower we know, and we've seen, but we haven't seen many of them for quite a while. And I looked for one of the seeds, but the seeds weren't there. It's called a large devil thorn. Now, used for quite a lot of different things. Now, if I take a few leaves and I pop them into my hand like that, and I add a dash of water, and then I mash them together, and you can see it creates a very snotty consistency. So you can actually see the stickiness. Now, this isn't actually a natural soap. Makes a bit more water in it. There you go. You can see. So you can wash your hands with it. It's also used in traditional medicine as a lubricant for difficult childbirths. And very interesting plant, very, very beautiful. And I will try to find you one of the seeds and just finish washing my hands quickly. There we go. And, oh, no, I've lost it. A very, very interesting little plant. So the chemical compound is very similar to what they call sapopins that you find in soaps. So, very interesting little plant, and I will try to find you one of the seeds, and it's got the name of devil thorn. It's got a very specifically designed seed that's designed to slip in between the ungulate's hooves. Can cause them quite a bit of pain and discomfort, but that's how they disperse their seeds around different areas. Now, speaking of ungulates, and one that might possibly move a devil thorn from a place to place, let's go see which ungulate that is with James.
I just think this looks like the most wonderful place to be lying at this stage of the day. The heat's starting to build, and it just looks so relaxing and so pleasant in that pool. I'd very much like to be in there. Obviously not with the buffalo. That would result in severe injury, probably. A paw-sized hole in the midriff, which is, well, difficult to treat. So it would be very exciting to be able to lie in a pool and just enjoy the wondrous heat of this autumnal morning. With lovely gentle breeze blowing through. And that is a buffalo, in case some of you are wondering. There are a few of them here, of course. They like to spend the days lying in the water. This one, of course, is chewing his cud. And that means that he's basically regurgitating his food back into his mouth, re-chewing it and then swallowing it. After a long night, probably, of grazing. And the buffalo definitely put on quite a lot of condition over the last little while Bryan and I were away. Bryan, if you can just, sorry, if you can whip round to the left, and that one just in front of us there. I don't know if you can see, his hips are not showing at all, and he's looking really well muscled on the hindquarters. And that's completely unlike, he's also now, of course, having a fairly large poo. He looks in really good shape, and the buffalo was starting to look a little bit ropey when I left. And when I left here, I drove out and drove back to Johannesburg. I drove through the community lands, and the cows out there were looking absolutely dreadful, really looking starved. And I think you'll find that they too are starting to look a bit better than this now. Very close relative of the cow is the buffalo, same family. And that means, of course, that while they can't interbreed, they will certainly share many of the same diseases. Just sneak forward a little bit, particularly while we're sort of on the flower theme. There's a particularly amazing flower, but to say that flower now, I was about to get out and fetch a piece, but I might fall down the bank and into the water, and that will create, again, consternation with the buffalo. It's an acacia flower, and it has a beautiful subtle citrus smell. Try and find another one. I hadn't noticed that before this year. It's called a flaky thorn. Right, on we go. So the Karula tracks that we saw, well, what I think was Karula's tracks, would have been Tundi's, not that fresh. We're coming in this direction from sort of over there, which is where our southern boundary is. So we'll just take a slow drive along there and see what else we can find along that way. Hello, Canada. Keith, you want to know what I think the temperature of that water is? I would say probably around 25 degrees Celsius, which is about 78 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. It'll be pretty warm. Pretty warm indeed. Now, a very good question from a fairly strange name, Daber Media. You want to know if animals follow a specific route or if their movements are demonstrably random. It depends. Sometimes they're predictable in that if an animal is marking territory, it will normally follow a fairly specific route. But it's not the same route all the time. Yes, for example, Shadow and Tingana are the two of the leopards that we see the most. They will follow fairly tried and trusted routes if they're marking territory in a particular area, but they don't always mark along that area. They might extend or slightly contract their boundaries in a fairly random, seemingly random fashion. So the fact that we are not able to find them more often than we are indicates that the movements are in fact pretty much random, and it's got a lot to do with where the prey moves. So an animal like that male impala, of course, will move all over the place. The herds of impala will move all over the place, and so the movement of the predators will sort of be dictated by the random movements of the prey to a large extent. When territory marking, like I say, slightly more predictable. So if you, for example, if you're following a rhino, a rhino bull will mark on pretty predictable areas. So if he's not grazing and he's marking his territory, if you know him and you know his area, it's pretty predictable as to where he'll go. But if he's grazing, completely random, yeah. I mean, with Yeah, I mean, within reason, you can sometimes predict where they're going to go based on termite mounds and where the good tasting grass is. Natasha in Ontario, this question does come through fairly often when we don't see giraffe, and it's a very good one. Where are all the giraffe? Have they moved off? Why are we not seeing them? Natasha, it's simply because they seem to be pretty nomadic. So they're totally non-territorial, which means that they'll just move around. Sometimes they'll be here a lot, excuse me, and sometimes they won't be here at all. And of course that is a little bit irksome when you're looking for them. But that is just the way it goes. So sometimes you'll find that people actually call them in on the radio and say, you know, where are all the giraffe? Please, if somebody sees them, call them in. Because we wouldn't normally call them in because they're what we term general game. A slightly ridiculous term for such a magnificent animal. But sometimes they're all over the place, and so we don't call them in on the radio at all. So Natasha, I can't tell you where they are. Their movements are random, as De Bear Media asked. Here's our aerial. Well. No more signs of leopard tracks around here, I'm afraid, but I mean, that's okay. We will have time with Karula and her babies at some stage in the near future. That will be so special. We'll pop up here. Brent is just to the north of us, just kind of circling around. And if those mating leopards do come north, I'm pretty sure we'll pick them up at some stage fairly soon. Just keep checking the road. The cats, of course, at this time of the day, it's starting to get quite warm. I don't think it'll be particularly hot today, but it is getting warm. So they will start to go to ground, much the same as the hyenas would. Hello, Grant. A very nice question about how lions and leopards know where to mark, where the edge of their territories are. Well, Grant, it's largely through smell, basically. They can smell where they have been before, but they can also smell where other leopards and lions and hyenas in some cases have been. Here she is. No. It's a hyena trap. A well-worn. Oh, shucks. That was the VR rig has taken a bit of a hammering there. I think I hit the pole, not the cameras, which I hope is the case. Oops. That's slightly nerve-wracking. So, Bryan, you have to fix that. It's through smell, basically. And what happens is, of course, that if you look at a picture of where animals are spotted, you get an idea, you know, if you look at a regular pattern of sightings, you can get an idea of the size of the territory and where they are. But you also see that there is overlap. And that overlap is caused by the fact that the animals don't always mark in the same place. So they might spend more time in the north of their territories. Let's say a leopard has got a large kill in the north of her territory. She won't then mark the south for 4 or 5 days because she'll be finishing that food. And so there could be an incursion from another leopard pushing up, not smelling the presence of the current territorial leopard because she's away. And even if there's a rainstorm that happens during that kill, well, then the scent of that leopard will be moved off. So it's a continual kind of process of marking and smelling and seeing where the others are. Oh, beautiful male kudu, running away high speed. There are 2 of them there. Let me just go around the corner here. Seeking out some shade where they can do their browsing. fact, in that case, see, he's eating those flowers that I couldn't identify earlier. Not grazing. The kudu will very, very seldom choose to eat grass, so those will be other herbaceous plants, what we call forbs, unidentified herbaceous plants, and herbaceous, I mean not wood-bearing, so not a tree. But very seldom will a kudu actually eat grass. Let me try and see exactly what he's eating with the use of these very fancy binoculars that I have been lent today. That's what a kudu looks like through binoculars. These, of course, are possibly the best brand of binoculars you can buy that I'm looking at. I'm not allowed to say the brand, of course, because that would be giving unfair advertising. Very nice, I might keep those. Compare them with my other ones. Which ones would you choose, Brian?
Definitely the ones on the left, James.
On the left,
No,
these
yes,
ones,
yeah.
the powerful ones.
Oh, yeah, those powerful ones.
As opposed to the new school ones.
Yeah.
It's like going with Beethoven versus Justin Bieber, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always going to go with Ludwig. In all honesty, these things are horrendous. These are exceptional. It's more like a very nice car analogy that we could use, I suppose, would be what are those horrendous Russian-built things from the communist era? A Lada. This would be like an aging 70s Lada Niva, and this a modern, wondrous Mercedes-Benz. Right, no sign of any leopard around here, I'm afraid. Very upset about that. Going to continue. Assuming that Brent hasn't found them, otherwise we'd have linked across to him and he'd be telling you how wonderful he is at finding leopards. And Kirsten says that Brent has found nothing. Poor old Brent. It's hardly like we found a lot either. You can see the wind is blowing a bit, and so maybe there is a bit of a front coming through. You see the leaves are rustling, but the heat has definitely now driven most of the animals into the shade. And it won't be that hot today. It'll probably reach about 32 degrees Celsius, about 85 or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That real nasty edge of the summer has thankfully come off. Dissipated. Okay, let's go and get an update from Brent. We'll continue, I think, probably now towards the north.
So we're still checking this area for where James had those female leopard tracks coming in, and still just looping around where there's that possibility of that mating pair coming through. And we're just checking very careful, and I think we've seen an old friend. It looks like Nelson is still alive and kicking. Hello, Nelson. The one-eyed, one-horned impala who has only one ambition: to not be eaten. Now we do see Nelson in this general area. His injured eye is the other one. That's why he's sort of facing towards us, keeping his good eye on the right. And it's very strange. On Nelson, you find him by himself quite regularly, which you would think with his one eye would lead to him being a very easy target. But so far, he's been on his own since December. Also, his eye has made a remarkable recovery. I don't think he's got any vision out of it, but it was literally hanging out. Anyway, you can see as he turned, Or was that just another one-eyed impala? I can't really see. I need my binoculars. Because on Nelson, he's got that sort of white cataract across the whole one eye. It is possible it's just another one-horned impala. There are a few of them about. They lose those horns while during the rutting season fighting over breeding rights for females.
For some reason I'm thinking Nelson's got a right eye that's damaged.
Yes, Wium is correct. I think Nelson's right eye is damaged, so this is not Nelson. But it is nevertheless a Juma unicorn. A Jumacorn, there we go. So, very interesting. If we don't find any tracks of Karula coming out in this area, there's a strong possibility she's made a kill in this block. And it might be worth having a little stroll around a little later, or on the sunset safari, making sure she doesn't have meat up a tree. We've been looking at a few flowers today, and Heidi's wondering why are all the blossoms so small? Is this because of the dry area? It is. You very seldom find very large flowers here. Most of them are very small. Sorry, James is calling me. Standing by. And I went back down Gary Main. I first checked through to the signboards, and then Weaver's Nest, and now doing Treehouse back towards Shabam. So you will notice a lot of the flowers will be quite small, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Quite a lot of the insects that feed on them are quite small, have very specifically designed mouth parts. Now, the biggest flower we generally see here is the lion's eye hibiscus, which is massive. I'll see if I can find us one, or maybe we can ask James if he spots one to show it to you. Now, the interesting thing about that, it is a massive flower. James actually showed you one earlier, and the very interesting thing about that is that the largest hawk moth species, the arrow hawk moth, that is their host plant. So that big flower attracts a big moth. So most of the other flowers will be attracting a different insect species that's quite smaller. And obviously with the smaller flowers, they're going to lose less moisture. Now, Karula really likes these crest thickets made up of monkey oranges. Now, being quite a small female leopard, she definitely prefers smaller prey, so duiker and steenbok. That's why we often find her hunting through these areas, and she often has kills in these areas. When she does take slightly bigger prey, it's normally juvenile inyala, juvenile bushbuck. She doesn't really that often take adult impala, but we have seen her do it before. But it is very difficult for a leopard of her size to then hoist that kill into a tree. So to ensure almost being able to keep that kill and not lose her kill, she tends to focus on slightly smaller prey species than, say, a male leopard would. Do one more loop of this block where the queen was last, or the tracks of the queen were last seen. On the way through, I was double checking tracks. This time, I'm going to be looking up in the air, checking the trees so that we can see from the road. getting nice and toasty. I'm guessing it's probably very close, if not over 30 degrees already. Oh, hello. Wildebeests. I haven't been seeing too many of them recently. We've been seeing lots of individuals rather than herds, but this looks like a little, actually, bachelor herd and all boys, young boys. I haven't quite got their own territory yet. Now, this windy weather that I predicted was coming earlier on this morning is now set in. Now, if you're a Queen Karula, this is good news. So the wind will help mask any sound she might make, as well as masking her scent and sending her scent swirling around. So keeping the animals a little bit nervous and jumpy, and they might actually just even run into her. I have seen that in this windy weather before. So Sandra in Canada is wondering, does my neck ever get sore when I'm sitting like this, looking over the vehicle for tracks? Well, I think it's got developed tracking muscles, Sandra, so it doesn't get too bad from looking over the vehicle for tracks. So James said those tracks, they crossed in probably up on this crest here. So I'm just going to sit up on my door, get a little bit of height, so I can look and see into those trees. Hopefully I spot a tail hanging or the shape of a carcass in the tree to give us a nice spot to go look at and hopefully find an accumulating tuber. Okay. So in this area, specifically up on these crests in between these monkey orange thickets, the tree we're probably going to spend most of our time focusing on checking are the big marulas. Now, this is quite a favorite tree of most leopards in this area, specifically when they're away from the riverbeds to put their kills in. They often provide nice, tall branches, so they've got a very big, straight stem, and that spreads quite nicely, offering nice places to lie and to hook in their kills. And that nice straight branch in the beginning makes it more difficult for lions and things to also climb up there. So marula trees up on the crests are quite often the preference when it comes to hoisting a carcass. We're going to keep checking really slowly, really carefully through here, and while we do that, let's go see what Commander Bond is up to.
Commander Bond is bumbling around in the wilderness like a headless chicken at the moment, I'm afraid. We have found no further signs of anything other than a lot of different kinds of grasses. And so I think I'm going to do is get off this foul road, which is bumping and shaking us to pieces. And then we'll have a look at some of those. No further reports of the mating pair. Andrew is there as well. Another chitru guy is around there. So if they do come north across onto Vuyatela, which is where we're driving, then we'll get a look at them. So for those of you who are perhaps new, this is a very, relatively small piece of land that we drive on. And that means, of course, the animals are free to come and go as they please. And so if they cross the boundary, they happen to be found across the boundary, we can't go there. But this particular two are heading north towards our southern boundary. And so they may well cross over during the course of the day. And we'll be delighted by them this evening, perhaps. We drive around on about 600 hectares of land, and that in, 1,500 including Arethusa to our left-hand side here. So it's 900 of Djuma, 600 of Arethusa, and that translates, if you multiply it by 2.4, to roughly 4,000 acres of land. And that's our traversing area. But of course, within the next week or so, 2 weeks probably, Cheetah Plains comes online, and then we'll be operating on 2,100 hectares, which translates to a good 5,000 acres, which is excellent news. 5 and a bit thousand acres. That will make a big difference, I think. Okay, we're going to turn off this road now, head towards a clearing. The Birmingham boys, that announcement on the radio was just about two more of the Birmingham boys being found on Buffalo's Hook. Now, this is quite interesting. Here's the tracks of the male lion that Brent was following. If you look straight up the road there, you'll be able to see them. Brent was following them this morning. There they are. And eventually found them at Sydney's Dam, which is quite a long way from here. But that's what those are. And that was one Birmingham boy, you chap said. And 2 more have been found now on Buffalo's Hook. The fact that they're on Buffalo's Hook is interesting because they haven't been that far north for some time. And I think it's because the Salati males have come further south. That's why we've been seeing the Birminghams on Juma for the last little while. And they're just sort of reasserting that boundary. So we had that question there about how they know where to mark their boundaries and that sort of thing. Well, it will now be because of the smell. And you'll find that the boundary between the Salatis and the Birmingham boys will probably run almost directly parallel with our northern boundary, but about halfway into Buffalo's Hook. Now, I love this little clearing, of course, because there are lots and lots of different kinds of grass here. So what we're going to do is look at that, because grass is easy to find. Bryan, why is it easier to find than leopards?
And the grass doesn't move.
Correct, the grass does not move. Now, let's pick a suite, we'll pick a little bouquet of different kinds of grasses. There are lots of them around. Oh, and there's also an Oldenlandia. I'm just going to pick one bloom. Yesterday, I found this white flower, and I think that might be a different one, but it's probably the same. That's called Oldenlandia, and one of our wonderful viewers identified it for me, and I can't remember who it was. So whoever you were, thank you very much. I apologize for my ignorance. Anyway, let's just continue with our bouquet of grasses. What else? We don't have this one. We don't have this one. We don't have this one. This is in a tiny little patch of land that we've got all these different grasses. And then I just want to pick some of this because, it's the most wonderful smell, Bryan. There you are.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Ah, licorice.
Licorice. Wild aniseed. Smells like a licorice ball. Or aniseed ball, or if you happen to be of that bent, sambuca, disgusting stuff, or ouzo if you happen to be in Greece. Now, that is the Digitaria that we saw earlier. And the Digitaria, of course, you can see those little black pieces, and those are the anthers on which the pollen of this plant were found, the pollen that is in my nose and Bryan's nose, and creating some kind of nasal consternation. Then we have a particularly poor grazing grass, which is indicative of disturbed areas. That's called Aristida, or a 3-awn. And it's called a 3-awn because, Bryan, there are
3 awns.
3 awns, which on the, you can just see them now. There. You see those? There are 3 awns on the end of that seed, so that's the Aristida. Then we've got, I hope I'm going to be able to identify these. That's a chloris, not the Roxburghiana. It's probably Virgata or something like that, feathered chloris. Very nice. And then we have a Eurocloa species. It's not particularly interesting, safe to say that it looks quite pretty. Very good grazing grass. So this is really in a healthy state, this particular clearing. That's the Digitaria, and then this is an Eragrosta species, relatively average grazing quality. And look at how pretty my bouquet is. See that, Bryan?
It's beautiful.
If I ever get married, I shall befall upon my bride to carry a natural bouquet of grasses down the aisle with her, to which she can fling at the last of her unmarried friends, because I will be 65, and she, of course, will be possibly 62. I don't know really where I was going with that, to be honest. All right, on we go. Find my plug hole. Somewhere here. There we go. I'm back in, Kirsten. On we go. So really quite interesting that. I mean, purely from the, I think the grasses are fascinating because they tell us so much about the state of the land. Now, you won't find anything like the suite of species that we had here in some of the grazing lands outside of the reserve, where domestic cattle, goats and donkeys have been feeding. And you'll find a lot of that aristida that I showed you, that three-horn grass, which is very poor grazing grass. But because areas here are allowed to rest, those kinds of grasses are able to grow. And it's just really indicative of very healthy veldt, or what we call rangeland. Plenty of hyena tracks around here. I'm pretty confident that this den is still on Djuma, in and around where the old Aubrey's Road den was. So we're going to keep looking during the course of the next few days, and we'll hopefully find them together. So it would be dreadfully sad not to spend more time with those hyenas. I think it is the lion activity that has made them start moving around the same way. Oh, Megan on Twitter, you want to know what my favorite flower is? I can actually answer that, Megan. Megan, my favorite flower is something called the num-num, which unfortunately is not around at the moment, and that's simply because of the smell. Carissa bispinosa, or the forest num-num, has got the most lovely jasmine-like smell, and jasmine, of course, just reminds me of springtime, which is my favorite time of the year. And so that's what my favorite is. It's a little indistinct white flower like that you find in quite thickly wooded areas, and often where there's lots of water. It's called the forest num-num. Of course, the name num-num is just wonderful as well. Spirit in the Sky, another wonderful Twitter handle. You want to know if we get lemongrass here, a wild lemongrass? No, we don't. Certainly nothing sort of officially called a wild lemongrass. Whoops, door's opening. We might find the odd species of grass that smells a bit citrusy, but I don't know of any actually. Thank you, Spirit in the Sky. That's a wonderful Twitter handle there. Of course, it will never become old. Even when you shake off this mortal coil, you can still be known as the Spirit in the Sky with any luck. Ooh, it's starting to blow. Dave, you're in Cleveland and you're a bit of an avid ornithologist, obviously, and you say, has the I'm So Sad bird flown the Djuma coop? Definitely, it's the black cuckoo. Black cuckoo's disappeared. Just about all the cuckoos have gone. There are no more, and I think they left early this year, possibly, because of the lack of insects and rain. And I mean, normally in January and February, you'd have them calling, the black cuckoo, you'd have the Diedrich's cuckoo going. Such a common January call, and the Class's cuckoo doing the same thing. Maybe even if we were really lucky, an emerald cuckoo, but not around here, further down towards the river. And while, the wind is really coming up. This didn't happen this January and February, and so I think all of those cuckoos, along with the black cuckoo, probably absconded fairly early, and if they didn't leave early, they weren't breeding, and so they weren't calling. I've seen one Jacobin cuckoo and one African cuckoo since I've been back from leave. Now, what happens often is when there's a first season bird, so for example the Jacobin or Lavallian's cuckoo will be raised by babblers, arrow-marked babblers, and sometimes instead of migrating in that first season they will spend the first winter with their host family. And it gets ridiculous because they're twice the size of their host family by the time the end of the winter comes along. Host family's got absolutely no idea that they're not raising one of their own. It's a fascinating thing to see. All right, Brent is back online. Let's go across and get an update from him.
So we did another 2 circles there. I was going to go take a walk, but this gusting wind we're experiencing today and the amount of buffalo bulls in that area is the reason I decided discretion is the better part of valor for the morning, but we'll definitely check on the sunset safari. She could be around. She probably has gone flat in this heat already, and so maybe she'll pop up at the treehouse waterhole in the evening for a drink. There's a bird of prey. I'm just trying to see what it is. Very difficult in this harsh light. Oh yeah. Oh, it's. What was that? Are you coming back around over our heads, Wium?
Yeah, we're above us.
Oh, sorry. Let me change its direction again. You can see how strong the wind is by the way that bird is flying. Looks at first glance like a tawny eagle, but it's very difficult. And let's see if I managed to catch it there before it disappeared. Very, very difficult to catch as it soars on these strong winds. Now, this is one of the eagle species, if it is a tawny, that is not going to disappear. Oh, and it's disappeared, but right in front of it, did you spot the other bird, Wium, on that dead stump? There we go. Lilac-breasted roller. But yeah, as I was saying, that very windy weather is not conducive to walking around buffalo bulls. The wind's changing direction constantly. So those old boys can be quite cantankerous when you're on foot. They're completely fine when you're in a vehicle. So I decided probably wait for them to go get settled in a pan somewhere before going to walk through that area to check all the big marula trees for a kill. So Monkey Man is wondering, do we get any egret species on Djuma or Arathusa, and if so, which ones? We get quite a few. Quite a lot of them will move depending on how much water's around, but the most common species we probably see here is the little egret, which is seen around the waterholes from time to time. We can get cattle egrets, intermediate and great white egrets. And if you are in the States, Monkey Man, there is a huge population of cattle egrets that has become resident in the States. They were brought across quite a long time ago, I think maybe early 1900s, late 1800s, because they got the nickname the tick bird, because they're often found around large congregations of wild animals. And it was incorrectly assumed that they feed off ticks. So unlike an oxpecker, they follow these big herds, specifically buffalo and elephant quite often, and they'll eat all the insects that are disturbed by them as they walk through the area. So they were brought out by the big Texas cattlemen to try control ticks. Meanwhile, they don't eat a tick, but they've become very much at home in Texas and in Florida as well. There's quite a lot of them, African egrets that are now resident there. Okay, let me just find a spot here to stop and show you some of these egrets. But very interesting. Florida in particular has got a lot of exotic species. Lots of exotic fish species, lots of exotic, there's a bit of shade there, it's getting very hot at the moment. Lots of exotic fish species that actually, one of the biggest challenges for a lot of indigenous Florida wildlife is the sharp-toothed catfish. The same catfish that lives in the water holes and the dams and rivers here. Okay. Go. Respite from that burning African sun. So, little egret, let me just get a bigger picture of him for you. There we go. So, the main difference to tell with the little egret, wait, let me get that right, is if we come down to their feet here, you see they've got black legs and yellow feet, and that's it. And they have a black bill when they are not breeding. It's just a photograph of one for you. But, let's go to the next egret. Western reef heron we don't get here. Snow egret we don't get here. Oh, I'm getting confused. Let's go back to this one. There we go. The cattle egret is the one I was telling you about that is quite common in the United States. And associated with open grasslands and large groups of animals. Now here's this now, I think maybe, no, it must be one back. Western reef, just trying to, oh, it doesn't matter, there we go. There we go, they're the egret species for you, and quite common in the United States. But from Wium and myself on the Wendela, it's been a pleasure having you on the back of the vehicle with us, and thanks for joining us. And don't forget to join for the Sunset Safari. There's huge potential for leopards to be seen, and I'll be leaving you in the capable hands of James and Jamie, and with Wium and Bryan continuing. So from us here, adieu, and we'll see you soon.
Well, everybody, we've come to the end of our drive, and the last thing I'm going to show you is probably the same as the first animal I showed you. There is a herd of impala, the very same herd of impala that I showed you earlier on. The male out front thinks he's protecting his flock. Actually, he's just attracting attention to himself by standing out there and sort of mouthing off, if you like. Beautiful herd. And they will go into the shade for much of the rest of the day and have a decent relax, which I hope all of you will as well. So it's been quite a quiet drive. Well, started off very well with some lions and some hope that we will find the hyena den sometime during the course of this afternoon, and perhaps also some leopards. Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Kirsty and Rebecca in the final control. Big thank you to Brent Leo Smith in the diminutive Wium Dorenbrach. We'll hold him to shaving off that moustache, and we'll see Paul Kruger. See you this afternoon. Bye-bye.